Hello everybody, my name is Burnage and this is my review for Ultima 4 on PC. I don't know what version this is, but this is the one you get on the Origin store. In Ultima 4, you travel around Britannia to find as many people as you can to ask them but one question. How do I be a good person? The game starts out with asking you some questions. Depending on how you answer them, depends on what class you start as. Which is totally irrelevant because you end up with all 8 classes anyways. The main mechanic in this game is gathering information. When you talk to each NPC, you're prompted to type in a word to ask the NPC about. Through these means, you learn how to master the 8 virtues and enter the Abyss, where you find the Codex of Infinite Wisdom. This game doesn't really provide you with much direction, so it's up to you to talk to strangers and slowly put together what you need to be doing to beat the game. Which makes this a game where you're going to want to read the manual. And by manual, I mean the small book they call a manual. This massive Bible to Ultima 4 provides a ton of really important information like the geography of the map, all of the 26 spells and the reagents needed to cast them, and so much more miscellaneous information that can help you get through this game. Ultima 4 really brings you back to an era where you needed to take notes if you wanted to win, and let me tell you, I filled most of an entire piece of paper with them. The game won't track anything at all for you, so it's up to you. If John tells you to ask Sally about potatoes, you better jot that down, because you don't want to end up Sally trying every word you can think of because you forgot what you were supposed to ask her. It really feels like you, the player, are on an adventure instead of just controlling a character that's on an adventure. The combat in this game is fun and plays much like a strategy game. Each unit takes their turn to move and attack. However, as you get more allies, the number of enemies will also increase, and by the end of the game, the battlefield gets really crowded. Oh yes, we've reached the part of the review where I talk about some of the issues you'll run into while playing this game. Partial spoilers ahead, but I'm not going to say anything game-breaking. The information gathering mechanic feels super bad if you don't know what to type. However, once you figure out the one word that everyone will respond to and kicks off the start of each conversation, then it becomes less of a problem. I'll get to that in a second, but I'll give you a minute to click off the review in case you really want to spend the first 10 to 20 hours just typing random words out of the dictionary until you figure out what it is. I made it about 50 to 60% through the game without figuring it out. But eventually, you're gonna have to bunker down and just try typing every word you can think of until you figure it out, or you just aren't gonna be able to progress. Turns out the word that you need to type to every person to get them started is job. I don't know why my quest to master the 8 virtues and find a bunch of artifacts so I can get into hell and become the Avatar would lead me to ask people about what they do for work. Ooh, a beggar, so what's your job? It's not just the fact that everyone responds to the word job, but they only respond to like half a dozen other words, and I don't need to start counting to know that there's kind of a lot of words in the English language. I really think this was a bad design choice. If instead each NPC just opened with the dialogue you get when you type job, I think this would have been a much better experience. And again, once you figure it out, it becomes a non-issue. But at first I really wasn't having much fun because of it. If I weren't planning on reviewing this game after finishing it, I probably wouldn't have made it very far. Once you get the dialogue rolling though, this game becomes a lot of fun and really makes your brain work figuring out what to ask next, or what you might do with the information you were given. Another annoying thing about this game is reagents. There aren't a ton of places to get them, and it's super time consuming to mix reagents for each spell one at a time. Because of this, I never experimented with spells. It was too much of a pain. I just prepared the ones I knew I was going to need, and that was pretty much it. I don't think the need for reagents was a bad choice, but it could have definitely been less work. Poison is everywhere, and in the beginning of the game you probably won't find a reagent shop before you use up everything you start with. Poison damage racks up quick too. Before I found a reagent shop, if I got poisoned, I was just dead. End of story. It just took a minute to happen. Plus, when you walk through the poisonous swamp with a full team and half of them get poisoned, now you gotta cast Cure Poison 4 times and probably prepare a bunch more one at a time. And then of course you gotta make another run to the reagent shop because you just cast 30 Cure Poison spells in the last 30 minutes. Another gripe I have with this game is wind. They had wind in Ultima 3, and it was the single most garbage mechanic I've ever seen. And I think they knew that because they fixed it a little, but it still sucks. When you're sailing against the wind, you move at an abysmal rate, and it feels like the wind is always changing just to fucking spite you. They put a wind changing spell in the game, but it's pretty much useless. Most of the time I only move like 2 spaces before the wind just changed back again. I only used the spell like 4 times before I realized I was just wasting time and money and reagents to do it. This next one I'm not going to explain very well because I don't want to spoil anything, but some of the virtues totally contradict each other, so maintaining mastery over all of them is a real pain. I had to remaster a couple of them like 3 times, and that was just annoying. Lastly, at the end of the game, after going through a huge dungeon to get to the codex, you have to answer 12 questions that are phrased more like riddles. Get any of them wrong 3 times, then you're booted out of the dungeon. Have fun spending another couple hours getting back to the codex for 3 more chances to answer that question correctly. Not to mention the last question doesn't make any sense and you won't find the answer anywhere because the developers literally forgot to put the dialogue in for the character that tells you what that word is. That endgame was absolutely inexcusable. With that being said, I still had a ton of fun for the majority of this game, and it's a fantastic RPG with a lot of great ideas. It's just a little rough around the edges. If old RPGs that make you take notes and use your brain is your jam, then this one's definitely a must-play. I recommend it to RPG and retro lovers alike, possibly even puzzle lovers, because there's a lot of cryptic riddles that you gotta figure out from the information you extract from the NPCs. Anyways, let me know how your quest to become the Avatar went in the comments. Like and subscribe to hear me verbally thrash more games and then tell you I loved it. And I'll see you in the next video.